Hello and welcome back to the Blue Room EWFC podcast with me, Peter McFarlane. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by an absolute icon for this episode. Fresh off the back of winning Podcast of the Year at this week's Sports Journalists Awards for her incredible podcast series, Everton, Nothing Will Be the Same. Our Walton Hall Park Stadium announcer, Goodison Park fan zone host, BBC Radio Merseyside's Everton icon, the one, the only, Giulia Bould. Giulia, how are we?
What an intro. I've waited so long for one of your epic intros, and I think I waited at the right time. It was a good week.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the sirens going past and everything to celebrate the fact that you're on.
It's all right, my dog's squeaking a ball, so apologies. Normal life resumes here.
Exactly. That's one thing about the Blue Room is it's very real. So yeah, but I mean, what a whirlwind of a well, I was going to say last week, but the last 18 months that you've been through.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm here to talk about this award that you've just won, an absolutely incredible achievement from yourself and the team as well. But I mean, what an 18 months, or what a season to have got in there.
I know. I keep every so often I think, what was I doing this time last year? So yeah, this time last year. Mind you, it's a bit like now, it wasn't good. The situation wasn't good. There was a relegation battle pending, similar situation, a lot of injuries. Yeah, it's been a weird 18 months. It's been a weird week. Monday, I think the 24 hours from Monday night to Tuesday night was the weirdest 24 hours of this year so far. And I think I'll have to go some to beat it. It was really quite something. So yeah, it was amazing. And yeah, we celebrated. I'll be honest, there was a 2-day hangover and I don't normally drink. So I was a little bit delicate, shall we say, for a couple of days. And today is the first day I felt actually a little bit more human, but it was amazing. Yeah, and I keep saying it, but I'm going to say it again. Thank you to everyone at BBC Studios that worked on this, because it wasn't just me. Obviously, I was the one in Finch Farm and inside with the team, but there's a lot of people, that helped put this together and, did the sound design on it. And that's why it sounds so amazing and all that kind of stuff. Unlike the dog's ball that's squeaking in the background. Yeah, so BBC Studios were fantastic making this. Mark Chapman on it, I think he's amazing. I think him narrating it just brings something really special to it. So that's great. And yeah, thank you to Everton. I've said it 100 times and I'll probably say it 100 more times, but I think a lot of clubs wouldn't have kept somebody in when it was going as wrong as it was. It wasn't just a relegation battle, as everybody knows, as you know well, Pete, that it was more than that. It was kind of anything that could go wrong did go wrong, didn't it? And then some. So fair play. I won't lie, it wasn't the easiest thing I've ever done. I think it was the hardest thing I've ever done by about a billion miles, but it was also the best thing I've ever done by a billion miles. So, I mean, I can show you this because I have got it if you want me to show you.
Yeah, this is the whole point, the whole reason. I want to see this trophy.
It's big.
Wow. Look at that. It's
big and it's really heavy because that's solid metal, but
yeah, worth all the hard work. I think that's it though. When you look at all of the situation that you were in, like you say, it wasn't any normal season. I think anyone, any club, any set of supporters would have agreed that was one hell of a season in terms of everything that was going on, both on and off the pitch. And like you say, you were in the midst of it all. I mean, to get through that, I remember, as I was listening to the podcast, it was a little bit like watching Titanic when the ship's going to sink, but actually that we're going to get through it. So I remember there was a particular episode where I think it's after the Newcastle game, and you're in the car park, aren't you? You're in your car and you're talking about it, and one of the things, I think the reason why Evertonians love it so much as well is because it is so real, and you were talking as one of us. And obviously you had so many amazing guests on it as well. You had so many amazing interviews with Frank Lampard, Sean Dyche. I know you mentioned Izzy Christiansen, Meg Finnegan as well in your speech. Lily Barnes as well, who we'll discuss a bit later on, because I met Lily. She's absolutely fantastic. But I think one of the reasons, or the main reason why we got on board with it so much, was because it just felt like reliving it. But as I say, it was great to know the ending. So when you're in the car
park, doing that right now, couldn't we?
Yeah, that's it, yeah. I'd love to be able to just fast forward and get to the end of May and know where we're at. But I think the Newcastle game, as I say, and you sounded so down, and I remember feeling like that myself. But just at the end of the episode, you sort of say, "But it's not over yet," and it was like, "Yeah, come on." And I think even as a fan of any football club, when you hear that raw emotion, you can, you
It's
feel
relatable, isn't it?
relatable.
Because it doesn't matter, even the best teams. I mean, probably the downs are not quite as down as some of they were last season for Everton. But there are downs and there are moments, and there's been dark points for a lot of clubs. So I think a lot of people relate, and I have genuinely actually been contacted by fans of other clubs. I've had Forest fans, Man United fans, Liverpool fans, which has surprised me because I did think that was the one audience that it wouldn't get, and actually it's got quite a lot of Liverpool fans. And I think quite a few have said to me that they can watch the TV series such as the ones on Man City, and even the Burnley one that was, the championship year where went back up to the Premier League, all fantastically made, all brilliant, but it's when everything's going well. And you don't often get the insight of when things are going wrong. And also a lot of the things that went wrong were nothing to do with the manager, sort of the current manager, Sean Dyche. They were nothing to do with him. They were nothing to do with the players. So it's interesting to get their take and how it affects them as people. And I think a lot of the times, genuinely, they felt the same as everybody else, that it was just a whirlwind, but they've got the added pressure of they can't be so consumed by it. And it's not because they don't care, they do care, but they can't afford to be as consumed as they can't afford to be like the rest of us online or on, on WhatsApp groups at 2 a.m. working out the maths of everybody else's points and who's got to play, because they've got a job to do, and it's a physical job, and they've got to put everything in it. So yeah, they do care, but it's a really different way of caring, and that's kind of interesting to see. I have said before, the weirdest bit is where, and having seen it up close, I don't think anyone could appreciate how weird it is that when a manager goes, the speed with which they're forgotten and it moves on, because it has to. There's no sort of, like when we leave a job, you either give a notice period and there's sort of 4 weeks and everyone knows you're going, and then you have a last day and there's a presentation and a whip round, and there's none of that because it happens literally. And I still to this day I haven't spoken to Frank Lampard again. He literally just left and that was it. And everyone else just move on. And I think Seamus is quite good at articulating that in that week where there's no manager, and he was upset about it. And like he said, I'm heartbroken. I think his words were, I was heartbroken for him. But we've got a job to do. We've just got to get on with it. And that's how it is. It doesn't matter. There's no time for sentiment. Everybody moves on. And I was a bit, oh God, okay. So that was weird.
Yeah, because I suppose if your office manager changes jobs, a new office manager comes in. I always say this thing about the first thing that happens is the desk get moved around a little bit, but there's no real sort of fundamental change. But like you say, with a new manager coming in, certainly when you've got a manager with a completely different style coming in, who's going to want to save the football club, he needs to get results out of players who've been used to losing and change the mentality. It is a wholesale change. It's everything, isn't it? And not just the manager. It's a backroom staff. It's a training staff. It's everything, isn't it? And trying to implement that change so quickly mid-season must have been such a tough job for Sean Dyche to do.
Yeah, and you think in a normal environment, there's always sort of a few in an office that don't like how they're doing that now, and we didn't always do it this way. Footballers are completely different. They just go, how are we doing it now? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's it. So it is a really different, there's a lot of similarities with footballers and how they think and feel, but then their job is nothing like a job I've ever seen up close before. It's a really odd scenario. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it. There was a change when he came in the first team block is at the back of Finch Farm, so it's kind of a separate building, and then at the top there's lots of offices, and the manager's office is at the bottom, and Kevin Thelwell's office, which you hear about in the series, so they're kind of opposite each other at the end of a long corridor, but the corridor has got lots of offices and then sort of meeting rooms, and they did have complete glass, so you could see in them. He had something put on them so you couldn't see in them.
A little bit of privacy.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, actually. I've never ever said that out loud. It's fine. It looks lovely, actually. They've done it really nice because I have seen it. So it's a nice addition from Sean Dyche's decor there.
I suppose that, it's just like you say, it's his management style. He needs to make himself at home, and he had to do that very quickly. And if you want to,
and there's things such as the pitch as well. I think it's in the series, and it was Mark, the groundsman at the time, was saying that every manager likes the pitches in the training ground completely different. So some like them, the sprinklers on before they go out. Some don't like that. Some like sort of certain ways of it being cut. Some like certain. He was talking about Marco Silva had liked having, there was some kind of, I think it was a gadget or some kind of thing at the sides. I have to listen back now. It's been a while. I can't remember what it is. But some kind of thing at the sides anyway that was helping training, and it was quite a unique thing. And he'd been on the phone to Fulham that week because they were going, what is it he's on about? Because we've got to get them here. So he said, I might try and sell them. So but again, and then another manager comes in and they go, oh, we don't want it that way. So yeah, everything changes, but they just get on with it. There's no moaning. It's like, oh, okay, we'll do it.
and obviously as well, in terms of his man management, there were certain players who I think it's fair to say were out of favour under Frank Lampard. Abdoulaye Doucouré in particular was a player who you know, Sean Dyche came in and revolutionised him in some ways. You know, he was so crucial for us staying up last season, none more so than when he got the winner against Bournemouth. And when we, you know, if we talk about, spoiler alert for the end, for you know,
you don't know how what happened.
I'm sure everyone listening to this knows how it happened, but yeah. But I just remember again reliving that moment and reliving after what we'd gone through. Now I've seen the photo of you after that game, and I think you've posted it, you know, at some point, but you really need to repost that. But again, the raw emotion and just the feeling of utter relief, and it wasn't like celebration. It wasn't like, you know, the Palace game, we were 2-0 down, we came back, we won 3-2, and it was such an outpouring of, you know, we at 40, you know, half time, we thought we were gone. And then we came back, and that was elation, because that was like, you know, it wasn't what you'd say good times. It was such a relief. It was
different. And also, I think, although the last game there was Arsenal then away, wasn't it? It still wasn't the last game of the season. So although it would have been unlikely to have gone and beaten Arsenal away, this still would have been, I don't know, there still was a shot, wasn't it? This was literally it. It was do or die. And then also because there was the other games simultaneously at the same time going on. And obviously Leeds were out of the running pretty quickly because I think the goal came through, didn't it, in a matter of minutes. But when Leicester went ahead, and everybody at half time is just thinking, oh my God. Like this, and that's kind of, so I agree. I think this was far more dramatic. I don't know if that's my perception, but this feels, I know it maybe wasn't as epic as in, like, 2-0 down and coming back and all that kind of excitement. But I felt this was a lot more dramatic. It felt a lot more. I don't know if that was just me because I was doing something as well on the sneak, making the series. But I felt this was a lot more dramatic.
I felt the same, and when I was there, the moments when Doucouré actually scored as well. And I'm not like really like an emotional person in terms of, you know, sort of showing my emotions too much is probably part of my downfall. I need to do it a lot more. Nothing wrong with showing your emotions, by the way, anyone listening out there, but. I just remember the outpouring of raw emotion when Doucouré scored. I was in tears. I don't mind saying it. I was in actual tears when Doucouré scored, and it just felt like
that noise. I have never heard that noise again, and I don't know if I'll ever hear. I'll never forget that. And I think Tarky says it to me in the tunnel afterwards. He said. I had an out-of-body experience because it was that much of a bizarre noise, and it was almost like, I remember thinking, it was so loud I couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It was like I was stood next to a plane taking off, and it was like nearly 40,000 people making some kind of weird animal noise, like a roar. It was like everything just came out like The Exorcist, like rah! And that's genuinely what it felt like. And I think I ended up over the back of a chair or over the back of a seat, and I was covered in scratches. Not that I minded at that point. But I agree. It was something like I've never experienced that before, and I don't know if I'll ever experience that noise again. It was like like an out of body. I thought my head was going to spin like The Exorcist. I was just going to vom over everybody.
But I think that's it as well, and but the series actually perfectly encapsulates that and gets the mood of Evertonians. And I think that, like, you know, as I was saying before, in terms of why it struck such a chord with Evertonians and football fans around is, it doesn't matter who you support, you can listen to this series and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I think it is because it is so raw and it is all emotion. Often you couldn't write it, you know what I mean? You couldn't have written that script. If I saw that script on Hollyoaks or, whatever, you'd think it was
Dream Team.
Yeah.
Do you remember Dream Team?
You'd think it was Ted Lasso or something. You'd think it was really out there and unrealistic, given everything that was going on off the pitch and everything else and the protests and everything. And I think when that culminated into that moment and that noise and that energy, like you say, it's incomparable. I mean, I've been to Goodison for big matches before and big atmospheres. I remember Fiorentina I always refer back to the Fiorentina game, the Man United game when we, that season when we managed to finish fourth and get in the Champions League qualifiers. And those two atmospheres were incredible. But that Bournemouth one it was because as well, the first half was so tense. And
yes, and it was so hot. It was hot weather. It felt like there was no air. And I think that was because everyone was panicking. It was like 40,000 people panicking. No one could get the breath. And it was just, and I think, I know the players after, quite a few said to me, what was amazing was the crowd, that when Leicester went ahead, they actually, I can tell you now, they had no idea. They did not know. And I don't think this is in the series, but there was a bit where they came off and went and get the halftime stuff sorted. And they asked Seamus Coleman if Leicester had scored. And he knew, and he said, I didn't have to tell them what. I was thinking, do I tell them? Do I not tell them? But they genuinely didn't know, because I know a few people have gone, oh, I think they knew. They didn't know at all. And I think I've spoken to somebody that was at the Leicester game, and they said it was the complete opposite when, Everton go and score, that it was like everybody knew and the players knew and you could hear it and there was groans. And I think fair play to everybody playing a part in that. And I mean, I don't know about anybody else. I had a moment at the start of half time where I just sat there and I thought, 45 minutes and the worst could happen here. And then you just sort of heard the noise getting back up again. And it was like amazing. And then I don't think anyone shut up, did they? Probably for about 3 days.
Well, that was it, yeah. I mean, I also remember that was it like 9 minutes of injury time at the end, and Leicester had finished.
It was 10, wasn't it?
Was it 10, yeah. It felt
because I would say it was it was 33 minutes off the worst case scenario plus 10 additional minutes. Because Dyche says it, I don't know where 10 came. I remember that 10 going up and thinking, where has 10 minutes come from? And I think Dyche went as if to go, are you kidding me? But he's even said he's never, in all his career, he's never heard a noise like that. He's never heard a stadium like that. And I think, and I think when he came into Everton, he clearly admires, it's a club he really admires. And I know that for a fact. He thinks it's a really big club and he feels very privileged to have got it, but he's pretty open about it. He knows he probably wouldn't have been considered if there was nothing amiss and it was all quite calm. So he says it was probably my only chance to come here. And he knows he's very great. So he works very hard. And I think when he came in, though, he had that. But I think it probably took him a few games to sort of come to grip. I think that's fair to say, come to grips with what it is to be an Everton manager. And I think he sure as hell knew at the Bournemouth game what it meant to be an Everton manager.
I think that's it as well. And when you talk about the experience that you will have gained from that, and we're obviously find ourselves in a similar position this season, but sort of through, I wouldn't say through no fault of our own, but certainly through no fault of the players or the manager. If it wasn't for things going on off the pitch, we wouldn't be in the position we are. It's it's plain for all to see. But the fact that they've had to deal with that on top of trying to lift these players' confidence and trying to get the best out of a group of players who've had 2 relegation scraps on the bounce. A team full of quality. I just think a team bereft of any kind of confidence when he first came in. And I think that certainly that fighting mentality and that togetherness that you've just spoken about in terms of the support and everything, that's going to be so crucial for the running, isn't it? And we really need to produce that as well from the stands. We need to generate that noise and that passion and get behind these players, don't we?
No, I fully agree with that, and I think it's easy to sort of say, and I get it because it's a bit like PTSD, isn't it? That there's been two rounds of this, and now it looks like a third one. I kind of hope by the end of April, it's just kind of May is a nothing May,
Yeah.
and I never thought I'd say that. I'd be absolutely delighted with the dullest May going because safety is fine, and everyone's just like, oh, let's just have a laugh in the sunshine and have a beer at the game and just watch it. Whatever happens. I hope that's the case. And you would certainly think there's more in the mix, I think, this time as well. And also not in the bottom three at the minute, whereas last April, quite frequently, I think we were most of April in the bottom three. So I think that will be different, hopefully. But yeah, it's easy to criticize, and it's easy to say the manager should be doing this, the manager's done this wrong, or the players have done this wrong. And yeah, and I fully appreciate that, only scoring 5 goals in the Premier League so far in 2024, that's not good enough. However, there have been draws, so there are points. So it's not necessarily that they've all been defeats. I don't think the performances have warranted that at all either. I think more points should be on the board. But also, I think it is, and it sounds an excuse, and I know someone was saying to me the other day, I know, but just talk about the football side, and I don't think you can. I don't think you can separate it at the minute, because I don't think you can say, oh, we'll just ignore the PSR stuff. Just ignore the points deductions. Just ignore the appeal boards and all that kind of stuff going on. And now the second one that's obviously been happening this week, and everyone's in limbo waiting for that to come back. I don't think you can ignore it, because however we feel watching this play out at home and reading about it, the players do. And it's like I said before, they've got to then go out and perform. And as you said, they're in this position now through no fault of their own. And how did you feel as a player in that international break, going away thinking happy days? There was some crazy fools saying Europe's on the cards here, but actually mathematically it completely was. And the results were being ground out. Go away. Poor Dyche is on holiday. He has a phone call. You're back in the bottom 3, and you've not done anything. And that is, I don't care who you are. I think the very best players in the whole world. I think sort of anybody, put Lionel Messi there. I think that after the previous 2 years, because it's not just this year in isolation. There's a lot of those players that this is the 3rd time. So Seamus, Pickford, DCL. Although I know he's been injured in part, but DCL again. He's in this. Who else is there? I'm trying to think who else was there.
He's been there throughout as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, and that is going to drain you. So I just hope everyone, and also easy to say as well, but Dyche came in, he's had 3 transfer windows, 2 of which has been nobody bought.
Yeah.
And the summer one where he was allowed to buy, it was because of sales. And it was kind of bargain buys, wasn't it? At the end of the day, bargain buys, deals on Klarna, all that kind of stuff spread out over 3 years. And that's, so again, it's not, I asked him in January, how close are we now to, is this more of a Sean Dyche Everton? And he said, yeah, it's getting there, but I don't think he wants to play how it is either. No. But he knows it's just about getting points. And you're not going to play the prettiest stuff. Everyone would take it going in off, Jared Branthwaite's backside if it meant 3 points.
Absolutely, and I think that's the thing as well, when as you rightly said, in terms of the psychologically having those points taken off them at that stage, and we were all looking at this team thinking finally we're getting some run results together. We're looking harder to beat. We look solid at the back, and there is a lot to be said about in terms of psychologically, just for the players on the pitch. If you're playing with a bit more freedom and you haven't got that extra pressure of being hovering above the relegation zone or in the relegation zone, you are going to play with more freedom. And I'm a firm believer as well that Dyche would have been able to maybe try different things, to try different formations, to try different players to give.
And the younger ones, everyone's going, oh, play Dobbin, throw Chimiti on. I don't think he's going to do that when it's like a good a misplaced pass, everyone groans. And if you're 19 and don't have a lot of experience and battling at the bottom of the table with all that pressure on you, I don't think it's no one's going to thrive in that as a young kid. So it's easy to say, why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing that? But I think he's having to be very cautious because he can't try things. He can't take a gamble.
Yeah, absolutely. And when again, when you when you look at the things that have gone on that are out of his control, like you said before as well, you can't just discount it. You can't. If you want to look at it and just say, well, we should have had better results, we should have done this, we should have done that, and I agree to an extent that there are games where we should have. I mean, for one, we should have put our chances away. If we put our chances away, we wouldn't be in the position we're in now.
Yep.
We've got. I mean, I'm a firm believer. I despise XG and things like that. I can understand that there's that there. I'm sure that it is a statistic and a stat.
You don't get a point though for good XG, do you?
Exactly.
Maybe bring that in, like some kind of new rule. But they won't, because Everton are really good at it.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Yeah.
If Everton were rubbish with the XG, they'd be like, bring that in as a bonus point after every game.
Yeah. See if we can knock some of the get some points back if we get any more taken off us, because
is a bonus point for an XG trophy.
Yeah. But I generally just think that, I mean, as all football fans, I think it's fair to say, and I think we all have to admit to this, we do have very short memories when it comes to, I mean, whether it's even a player. We might have a player who's flavour of the month and we absolutely adore them. They have a few bad games and all of a sudden they're the best in the world, we have.
Yeah.
But again,
well, Dyche was a hero in December. There was memes and there was all sorts of stuff, and and he's not doing anything different.
And I think as well, when it's easy to sort of dismiss the run of results that we were having under the previous two managers. And I've got a lot of respect for Frank Lampard. I really like Frank Lampard. I think he really bought into the club. I think it's fair to say that most Evertonians wanted it to work for him. And unfortunately, it just got to the point where we were losing every week. He looked like someone who was, I wouldn't say given up, but he looked defeated. I think felt like the writing was on the wall.
Yeah, and I think, having seen him close up, I think he was struggling. I think he was struggling with that level of what was. And actually, again, short memories. It wasn't even at the worst point. It's not even as bad as it is now, really, with the points deduction. So he was already struggling at that stage. And so it's easy to go, I know Dyche is a little bit Marmite. I think he says by himself, he's not really bothered about that. He doesn't, court sort of, he doesn't want to be on memes. He's not bothered about that kind of thing. He goes and does his job. But how many managers could cope with that? How many managers could cope with what has gone on? I mean, he laughed against Daly's press conference. I was there and he laughed, and I think the first 5, I was trying to count because I knew I was going to speak to you. So 5 or 6 questions, I think it was, were nothing again to do about football. It was due to PSR hearings, takeovers, and then another one about PSR hearings, and then something about Branthwaite in England, and something anyway. And then they went, anyway, back to the football. And he just went, for once. And that's kind of what he's had to do. And there's nobody else that can speak. There is an interim board and an interim CEO. But they're kind of just there. They were only meant to be there for the short term. They didn't think they would still be there.
Yeah.
He's the only leader that there is.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. And that's not what he signed up to. I'm sure he didn't sign up and think, well, in 12 months' time, I'll be pretty much the face of the club.
Well, that's it. I think that's it. We're talking so much about what goes on in terms of who's got the best barrister and all these things, trying to work out point deductions and looking at other teams' results and all these other things. And like you say, I just want to go back to just watching football and worrying about what's going on the pitch. It's hard enough just worrying about what's going on the pitch, but it'd be nice to just concentrate on that. But again, to talk about the series that you've just won this award for, fantastic, well done again.
Shoehorn it in.
I recommend anyone, if anyone hasn't listened to it, even if you have listened to it, listen to it again. I'm certainly going to be listening to it just for a bit of inspiration, to be honest with you, just to recharge my batteries, because I know that it's going to be a tough few months. I'm hoping that you're right, and by the end of April we can kind of relax a little bit, and
you heard it here first.
Yeah, that's it. But I'd recommend it to absolutely anyone. And just to finish as well, because I know you've had a long day, like you say, you've been in the press conference and everything. We've only got a few minutes left as well, about 7 minutes. But one of the things I wanted to mention as well in terms of the acceptance speech that you gave, I thought it was absolutely, lovely acceptance speech. And I think
it was a bit babbling, I'll be honest.
Oh, I loved it. No, it was great. Hey, listen, I'm the king of babbling. I love a good babble. Don't worry about that. But apart from Ryan babble, because he used to play for that lot. But anyway, but I've got to mention Lily, who you mentioned in your speech, and I had the pleasure of doing a tour of Goodison a couple of times, and I remember going it was actually with Sarah Halpin, and we met Lily, and honestly, what a character! What an absolute character! Like I remember this point in the tour when we were in I think we were in the Dixie Dean Lounge, and she started rolling off all of the firsts, like the Goodison, like the Goodison timeline.
Yeah, it's in the series that we kept it in because it was so, but there were so many, and she does it so fast that we kind of had to. It was sort of mixed that it dips in and out, and it just keeps coming back to her. But the knowledge she had, she knew every crevice of Goodison. I don't think there was anyone else with the knowledge like it. She knew every brick, every little bit of it, every story. She had no notes. She was so passionate with it. And I'm so pleased that, because to get that, we could have gone on a few tours. That I kept being told you can go and do a tour whenever you want to record it for the series. And I kept waiting for Lily because I wanted to make sure that my schedule could match hers. And I didn't want anyone else because, like you say, she's amazing at it. And I'm so relieved that even though it took a bit of a while to match up my because I had different things to record, I'm so pleased. And I'm pleased for the family, and I'm pleased for Elle, a granddaughter who works at the club, because they recorded together a bit in the changing room. And she went straight, I said, go and sit wherever you want. And she went straight to Seamus Coleman's peg. And she said she loves him. And she said, he's my favourite current player. I love him. He can do no wrong for me. And she went straight there, and she sat right by his shirt, right by his peg, and chatted. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't really plan the speech because I didn't really expect to be stood there, in all honesty. So it was
I was telling you for weeks you were going to win that.
Sorry, I should have thanked you at the end.
This is your thank you to me doing this.
As I was walking up, I thought of her, and I knew how excited she'd been about the series and how lovely she was, and she'd been asking me all about it. And I just thought, she's not here to kind of see. She was obviously still here when the series came out, so she heard a lot of the love of the people that had heard it quite quickly. And she's not here. She sits near. Well, she did sit near me in the main stand, so it was lovely when a family put sweets on the seat for the first game back. And I still tap the seat as I go past now, because I used to stop and say, "Hi, Lily, you all right?" And she used to be that focused on the game that she'd be like watching the warm up ready. So she'd just go, "Yeah, you're all right." And I'd be, "All right, okay." So I kind of just wanted to make sure she was part of that, really, because it's people like her, like Mo on reception, Jimmy Martin, Tony Sage, those type of people that took part, that I think most Evertonians know what the club's about and know there's that warmth. And even when things are not great, there's still that, the warmth and the humour and how everybody sticks together no matter what. And Lily was just the top of the tree in that. She was exactly what Everton's about. A character, knows her club, will do anything for her club, and will be there to the very end. And she was. And she was working right up to almost when she passed away. So I just wanted to make sure she was involved in that. And that was as deep as it got, I'm afraid. It wasn't that deep, but I just wanted to make sure she was there.
Well, it was a beautiful tribute and a really, really touching moment. And I think, again, it's something to listen for in the series. When I first heard her voice, it did take me back to that time when me and Sarah were on the tour with her, and it was just what a character. But again, like you say, in terms of the series, one of what makes it so unique and what makes it so heartwarming and what gives us the connection to it are the people, and the people are what make Everton Football Club. Players come and go. Some players will stay longer than others and stay forever, like Seamus Coleman. But players come and go, managers come and go. But the one thing that never changes are Evertonians. And the old saying that once Everton's touched you, nothing will be the same again. And I think that as your podcast series was called that, I think it was very apt. Certainly I just want to, got to finish now. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I just want to say thank you to you for producing it and for giving me your time as well this evening. Keep doing what you're doing. We're also very proud of you. You're an absolutely fantastic human being, a brilliant journalist. And yeah, we're all very proud of you, Giulia.
Thank you. I'll give you that tenner later. I wrote that. You read that perfectly. No, do you know what? It's been, as I said before, it was the hardest thing I've ever done, ever. It was very consuming. I had friends that didn't know I was even making it. I didn't see them for months and months and months. So I'm trying to catch up with people now. And in fact, my friend who I sat with on the final game of the season against Bournemouth didn't even know I was making that series. And afterwards, it was only when it came out and they listened and they went, I can now see why you were absolutely hysterical. And they wondered why I had to shoot off, because I had all the kit hidden in my bag and I had to shoot back down to the tunnel. So it was everything. I would do it again in a heartbeat, even though clearly I am insane for thinking that. Whether it will happen, I don't know. People keep asking me that. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I'll be happy with what we did. But yeah, it was the best thing ever. And it was an absolute privilege of a lifetime to be in there. And I think no matter what happens, as you say, people come and go. I think those people that are in there and in that first team squad especially, I think I'll probably always have a bond with them because we were all haunted at the same time in there.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you so much, Julie. We'll have to finish there, unfortunately. I'd love to carry on chatting to you all. I'm sure we will.
We'll do it again. We'll do it again.
But yeah, I'll get you back on again, and hopefully we can have another catch up at the end of April when we can relax a bit more. But that's for now. Thanks so much, Giulia. And up the toffees.